Bryan, you're very welcome. Perhaps you could introduce yourself and tell me a bit about your experience in financial services.
Yeah, thank you. My background is in insurance and banking. I joined a company called Progressive Life back in the 1980s, where I worked as a broker consultant, so I worked with brokers. I also held various other roles. Around 1990 then we were taken over by the Irish Permanent Bank, and I worked with them as head of training for a number of years. I left there around 2001 and I started my own company, Business Champions, which is a specialist human performance company. However, most people probably know me from my work in the area of financial exams. Any professional people now working in the area of financial advice need to have what's known as a qualified financial advisor designation. These are professional examinations that people must have. So I do a lot of work for both the Institute of Banking, the Life Insurance Association of Ireland, in relation to these exams, and indeed help people to pass their exams. So a company like 360 also falls under this. So the advisors in 360 are also fully professionally qualified as well.
And Bryan, in relation to the Europa Strategic Partners corporate bond, what is your connection to the company?
Over the last couple of years, I've been working closely with the company here in relation to training and keeping up their CPD requirements. It's always great when you see a company very involved in training, and I know they're very keen to keep their training up to date here as well. I was also attracted by the fact that a former colleague of mine also worked here as well, so he forms part of a very experienced management team here as well.
And Bryan, the company operates in India. I understand you have a lot of experience in India.
Yes, indeed. I'm a great fan of India. I've been to the subcontinent several times. Initially I spoke at some insurance investment type conferences there, known as $1 Million Round Table, and that is for Indian professionals in the insurance and investment service. I also did some work for a company called the Life Insurance Company of India. Now, just to give you some indication of scale, the Life Insurance Company of India actually have 1 million employees. So you can imagine, perhaps I could work there for the rest of my life. Also, India in many ways is very similar to Ireland. The same colour flag, their constitution was based around the same type of words and so forth. And also bear in mind there's over 1 billion people in India, which is a sixth of the world's population at the moment. So it's quite staggering and a very, very interesting country. Another reason I was very keen to work with your company was I did want to keep up my association with India. I really enjoyed the whole concept of India and so forth, and I'd be very keen to work back in India again.
Bryan, I'd like to get into the nitty-gritty of the bond. It's offering 40% over 4 years. In your view, is that realistic?
Yes, I believe 40% is a realistic return after 4 years. If you break this down into an annual return, it works out at about 8.7%. We often call this the internal rate of return. So the internal rate of return is equal to about 8.7%. Effectively, if you had to borrow this from the banks, which the banks don't have a great appetite at the moment, they would be charging this or indeed even more. And as you know, the banks don't have a great appetite for small and medium enterprises. So one of the worldwide trends now is for people to borrow like this. I believe this is called crowdfunding as well, and getting quite popular at the moment. So in my view, from the client's point of view, they're getting a realistic rate of return, and from the company's point of view, from your point of view as well, it's a reasonable rate of interest to borrow at. So really I think it becomes a win-win situation.
And Bryan, the bond's not regulated. Should that be a cause for concern?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be a cause of concern for me. Firstly, the bond doesn't need to be regulated. The central bank stipulates that some products are regulated and some aren't regulated. To give you an example, unregulated products include property. Many Irish people invest in property, foreign exchange, and indeed gold. So this bond isn't required to be regulated. So the fact that this bond is unregulated doesn't affect its performance in any way. In fact, regulated products have a maximum compensation of €20,000. And of course, bear in mind that there is a personal guarantee as well with this bond.
The bond is proving very popular with paid-up pension transfers.
Yes, indeed. The bond has been set up as a unit trust with the independent trustee company, who are the biggest trustees in Ireland. And it can be set up under what they call a self-directed basis. So somebody with their own pension money can actually put this into the fund. ITC themselves are the biggest trustees in Ireland, and of course they've set up many other types of investment like this, and of course ITC themselves are also highly regulated and they must follow regulations as well.
The promoters of the Europa Bond were involved in a previous bond. Are you aware of how that worked out?
Yes, my understanding is that Stuart Bailey was involved in the previous bonds, the majority shareholder of the company here, issued I think between 2008 and 2013. And we have confirmation from the pension trustees that everybody has been repaid in full and everybody's a happy customer.
And finally, Bryan, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, indeed. There's a couple of things that really appeal to me about this. Firstly, the fact that it's a very competitive fixed rate return. And secondly, that return is actually underpinned by a promise. There's a guarantee with this as well. And of course, as with any investment, I would always encourage everybody to seek independent financial advice on this.